All right.
All right, there we
Rock
go.
and
We're
rolling.
live. We're ready to go. We apologize for the technical difficulties. We actually were early tonight getting things started and getting things going, but Facebook has changed how you go live. I know you guys don't really care about this, but
Nobody wants excuses. We are a school of innovation and technology. And the last thing we need is for the principal to be making excuses why technology didn't work.
well, you have to put a description and then you have to put a comment in order to be able to post live. So it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Okay, so we will not rob you of your time. So we apologize for starting late. We'll give you those additional 8 minutes back. No excuses.
Thank you, Troy.
Absolutely.
See, Troy
Right.
knows what I'm talking
No
about.
excuses. Okay, so
So what you're telling me is no playful banter tonight. Like we
No.
just got to dive in.
no, they want us. We just need to get right to it because everybody's excited to hear what we have to say.
As excited as we were this afternoon.
Excited as I was around 1:30, 1:45 p.m.
So should we break news if people don't know what's going on, what we're talking about here?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, breaking news story here on the Canyon View News Channel. Governor Doug Ducey came out this afternoon with an executive order that is mandating every able-bodied school in the state of Arizona to go ahead and reopen effective March 15th. So as you may or may not know from our school board meetings, we had a plan to open up on March 22nd, a week later, but Governor Ducey's mandate, his executive order is going to have that pushed up a week. And so we have been scrambling all afternoon, but we had some really good, lively conversation. And on top of the
like wildfire. All right, it should let me know.
You can't do
There
that.
we go.
Was that on your screen?
Yeah, sorry.
I'm trying to give the people what they want, and then you come in with an interruption.
Yeah, I know.
That's all right. Everybody loves you. You can do no wrong.
Yeah, right.
That was tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
Hey, so we're going to dive right in. So we sent out a Google form to the parents. Hopefully you got to see that. And we put together all of your questions, moms and dads, students out there, guests, community members from near and far. And we're going to kind of condense all those questions and get the finer ones out. If we have some room at the end of the time, we'll open it up to the chat room. I got my chat room going here. And Miss Faulkner Peace is doing a happy dance. We were not going to have her share her screen, but I'm sure she's extremely excited. Michael Cooper is also on, and he's pretty excited too. So we're going to, Michael Coop, my dude. So what we're going to do is we're going to dive in with the questions we have. Let Mr. Nowlin jump in and answer those questions for you. And if there's anything that we didn't cover that you're just dying to know, we'll see if we can't get some of those questions answered. We're going to hope to be roughly about 45 minutes or so. And yeah, let's dive in. So for those of you that don't know, my name is Corey Beal. I am the instructional coach at Canyon View High School. And Mr. Nowlin and I, the principal at Canyon View, we try to do this about once a quarter and just touch base with the Canyon View community. And we've gotten some really good responses. And we said, let's just keep doing it because it's fun for us and we get the information out to the masses. All right, so here we go, folks. First question right off the chute. Mr. Nowlin, will students have the option? And this is the big question, right? This is the question that ends all questions when it comes to where we are right now. Will students have the option of continuing remote learning for the remainder of the school year if that family so chooses?
Yes, absolutely. So I want to talk a little bit more about this. First of all, I'm excited to see students back. We had originally planned on the 22nd, but due to the governor's order, we had an emergency meeting today. And obviously the 15th is what the date is going to be. So we're excited to see our students. We miss our students. Michael, miss you, miss all your classmates. So we've had to live through that by just really looking at athletic activities and going to those events. And I was in the theater earlier today, the Performing Arts Center, watching some play rehearsal and stuff like that. So that's kind of how we get our kid fix right now. But I'm excited to see all the students that will be on campus starting the 15th. With that being said, there will be two options. So you'll have an in-person option and you'll have a remote option. So students that and families that choose to stay in remote, we respect that, understand that, absolutely. We will continue to try to do our best to provide you with the very best instructional opportunities that we can. So students and parents will still have that choice. There is going to be a commitment form that is going out tomorrow, okay, tomorrow, and that's going to get emailed out via our Remind. We're asking families to commit to make a decision to either they're going to be in person, so return to in-person learning, or they are going to stay remote. So I think that's important, and that's going to be due Monday, March 8th. And so it's imperative that we get this information, because this is going to allow us to really determine what are our class sizes, get those class lists to teachers, looking at our advisory and lunches and things like that. So that allows us to be able to do that through that model. Okay.
And it's a far-reaching number too, right? Because our cafeteria staff needs to know that for our student union, transportation. So it's really important that we get all of that information as fast as possible. So thank you for doing that. So a couple follow-up questions, Mr. Nowlin. So one question was, can you give us some insight into the decision of why stay the schedule that we're in right now? Why not go back to our AB schedule where we're doing 6 classes a day, making it a little bit more realistic and kind of the way that we typically do things? Why stay in that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 model on Mondays and Tuesdays?
Well, I think the first and foremost, we promised our community that we were going to try to maintain consistency. Our district and our governing board and our superintendent, committed to, when we passed the schedule change model that we did in January, one of the things that we wanted to do is maintain some level of consistency with the schedule. So with that being said, we're not going to change the schedule. Students and parents are familiar with the schedule, and so we want to maintain that. So that's why, one of the reasons why the schedule is not going to change. We also still have testing, even though the state has passed that there's no letter grades, we still are testing our students. So there is still AZM2 testing, there's still AP testing, and those types of things. And so in order for us to go back to that block model, it would be tremendously difficult to do that in March. Because you would have to split up the last 9 weeks of the school year into 2 4.5-week blocks, and that would not be what's best for student learning.
Right. So when it comes to the online option, will that still be facilitated through Canyon View, or will that be an outside source? For those that choose the at-home option, how will the learning look like for them?
No, absolutely. And I know there's a couple questions. One question just was asked, when does this all begin? This all begins on March 15th. Okay. And so also in the chat, just so you guys know, we do have some of our team members in the chat that are going to try to answer some of the questions in the chat as well. So we'll try to take care of what we can, and then they'll be assistive in that way. But what does it look like? Your question was, what does it look like for remote students?
Well, is the online learning still being facilitated by Canyon View, or is there an outside service?
Right.
How will the remote learners get their instruction?
Right. So remote learners will get their instruction from their teachers. So there won't be an outside model, Odyssey-ware, those types of platforms. They won't be using those platforms. So for all intents and purposes, your students, whether if they're in person or they're remote, their schedule won't change, in the sense that I have, these teachers first, second, and third, and I have these teachers fourth, fifth, and sixth. Monday and Tuesday is still going to be the same. Okay. CTE classes they will continue to be offered because they will remain with their same teacher. So it won't go into a different model. So whether that's AP, honors, CTE, doesn't matter. So the schedule will look the same with some minor tweaks. Some of the minor tweaks are going to include going back from, currently in our schedule, we have advisory and lunch back to back. This model will change it where students will still have advisory and lunch, but we're going to break it up into an A lunch and a B lunch so that we won't have all of the students at lunch at the same time.
Real quick, because this is
Yep.
going to be a big question that comes up for parents and students, so I'm going to get ahead of it. How will students know whether they have A lunch or B lunch?
Right. So what we're working on, and obviously with the accelerated timeline, we have a little work to do here, but we want to get schedules. It's your students, first of all, will be able to see it on their student view. And so is my lunch A or is my lunch B? But it's going to be based on the teacher, on your advisory teacher. Okay.
All right. How about buses? Transportation, getting kids to campus, getting kids to school. Any changes with that, or do we just go to our normal bus stops and wait for the bus? Is that staggered because of the different start times for our bus riders? How does that look?
Yeah, so let's talk about start times, end times, some of those things. So
Okay.
first and foremost, our start time will move from 8:10 to 8:30. That's in order to allow sanitize and then pick up and drop off our kids. Okay. So that's first and foremost. So we will also end school later, 3:25. We will not have a staggered start or release for our regular learners. So your students won't have a staggered start or release based on their Ford or based on their class. Everybody will start at 8:30 and everybody will end at 3:25. As far as buses and transportation will have some more information in regards to that. But at this point in time, your bus times will be, and your bus routes, pickup locations will be similar to what it was for the first 3 weeks. Okay. So I know some people are saying, well, my kid didn't come to school those 3 weeks. So we may not know that information. That information will get sent out to you over the course of the next few days. So obviously, one of the reasons that we don't have all of that information right now is because that was based on a March 22nd return,
Sure.
in which there was going to be time to get the commitment form out and be able to run numbers. But since we've got to accelerate that, we'll get that information out to you guys, or our transportation department will get that information out to you guys by next week. There will be a letter coming from the superintendent home to all families tomorrow that just talks about what the governor's proclamation means and what that means here in the Alfred district.
Okay. So because I'm picking it up in the chat, I want to make sure that we get something clear, because it does change and it is different from the model that it's small, but it's definitely significant enough to talk about. Give us an update about Wednesdays, because Wednesdays are going to look different, and it's going to be dependent on whether you're at school or online. So give us, can you explain the Wednesday paradox?
Yeah, so I see a lot in the chat, and I don't know how people are going to feel about this, but I'll just kind of rip the Band-Aid off. We're looking at, there's 5 days of total school, but as far as in-person learning, there's going to be 4 days of in-person learning. So Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, students will come to campus in person. Okay. On Wednesdays, students will not come to school. That's for the in-person students. For the remote students will attend school 5 days a week. Let me explain what that schedule looks like. On Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, they will be checking in with their teachers for attendance. They'll still continue to follow their schedule. So first hour, I'm with Mrs. Smith. I'm going to be with Mrs. Smith, and I'm going to check in for the first 15 minutes. We're going to do bell work. We're going to talk to the teachers, talk to all students at the same time about the question for the day and what learning is going to look like. And then what will happen from that point is that depending on the teacher, they could provide asynchronous learning. And what that means is, so a teacher may say, like a science teacher, we're doing a lab today in class. So I'm going to give the remote students an alternative lab, a virtual lab, because obviously they won't be there in person to do the physical lab.
Sure.
But you guys are going to do your virtual lab, and then we're going to check back in towards the end of class. So there's going to be 2 checkpoints for remote students in every class. That's going to be the beginning, and that's going to be at the end to talk about whatever learning occurred or whatever assignments that were given for that day. There's going to be times where teachers do it synchronously. So I know a lot of people asked, is it going to be like hybrid like it was before? In some cases, for some lessons, it will. In some cases, it will not. In some cases, it will be asynchronous learning where students will go away from the screen. They'll work on whatever the assignment is, and they'll come back and check in with the teacher towards the end of the hour, last 15, 20 minutes, to really discuss any questions that they have. Wednesdays, okay, and I know this is a lot, and I promise you, we are sending out a communication this Friday that will have a lot of this stuff that we're talking about in print so you guys can look it over and read it. But on Wednesday, what's going to happen is the remote students on Wednesday will have live sessions with their teacher, okay? The in-person students will be doing independent practice that day. So if I'm an in-person student, I'm coming to school on Monday, I'm coming to school on Tuesday, and Wednesday I'm staying home. When I'm at home on Wednesday, I have the opportunity to get caught up on any assignments, do any reading that I need to do to get ready for coming back to school on Thursday. If I am a remote student, on Monday, I'm going to follow my schedule. I'm going to meet with my teacher at the beginning of class. I'm going to sometimes do an assignment with everybody. Sometimes I'm going to do an assignment on my own. And then the last 20 minutes of class, I'm going to come back. My teacher is going to talk to me about whatever, that assignment was, debrief with me, and then I'm going to move on to my next class. On Wednesday, I'm going to show up live with that teacher, and that teacher is going to be purely focused on those remote students, talking about what, the assignments that were given the first 2 days, what questions do they have, and really working through those students to really give them some kind of live interface.
So because we have 140 people watching, I want to make sure this is very clear, so that way it mitigates any frustrations going forward. We will be taking attendance by use of that beginning of the class question. We call it non-bell work. So whether you are in person or you are online, that is imperative, because that's how we track attendance, to make sure that your student is showing up in that first 10 minutes in order to engage with that opening question and record an answer and then go about their independent work. Also, I think it's important to be clear also that on Wednesdays, if your student is a live student and they have Wednesday for independent study, they still have the option of tuning in, for lack of a better word, to the instruction. They can join in with if you are adamant that I want my student to have 5 days of instruction, I don't want them to not be connected, have them dial in. Just know that it's going to be geared towards the remote learners. And for that one period, for that day, they would be remote learning. So, and for those students, because they will have already been at school on Monday and Tuesday, it will very much look like a refresher or a chance to be retaught what they learned on that Monday or Tuesday. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. And
Cool.
I know there was a couple questions in here. Will it be late start or will it be early release? So it's going to be early release on Wednesdays. So when we come out with the new non-bell schedule, which we've completed, and we'll send that out on Friday, the new non-bell schedule will start at 8 a.m. with an advisory period for all remote students. Okay. So, and that will be a 15-minute advisory where they're going to check in. They're going to do a SEL question for the day, social emotional question, to make sure that they have some face time with their advisory students. And then the students will follow their day. Those class periods are going to be 35 minutes long, and that's going to be purely focused on the remote learners. Okay. So late starts are not, the Wednesdays are not late starts starting after March 15th. Starting that week, Wednesdays will not be late starts. They will be early release, and we will be sending that schedule out to all families on Friday.
And again, point of clarification, moms and dads and students out there, there will be no students on campus on Wednesdays.
No students
So
on campus on Wednesday.
no student, no. And the only reason I bring that up is because when you see the schedule, you're going to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then early release. Do not confuse that with come to school, and that's the schedule you'll follow. No students on Wednesday on campus at Canyon View.
Correct. And so, and just one more added thing, on Wednesdays, kids are going to check in at 8 a.m. We're going to send that schedule out. But one of the things, I know there was a question in there, does this extend the school year? This does not extend the school year. When we talk about 180 days, it is focused on, you need to make sure that the 180 days are either in person or remote. And so it's a combination of two. So what does early release mean? Early release means the students will start at 8 a.m. and they'll be released from school, I want to say around 12:15. I don't, but like I said, we'll send that schedule out to you guys as well. So it doesn't extend the school year. Also, in-person students, if they want to show up on Wednesday, we'll reiterate, no kids will be on campus. But if they want to show up in person on Wednesday, let's say to the virtual session, they absolutely can, or they can work on the independent work. So there will not be an expectation that your student shows up, if you're an in-person student, that they will show up Wednesday during that class period.
Correct. Okay, so let's talk about the week of the 15th. So let's be honest, this is going to be a little overwhelming for some kids, right? For some of our students. A lot of freshmen have never set foot on our campus. We've had some students that have only been on our campus a total of 6 times, give or take.
Yeah.
What can students expect on March 15th on that Monday? And I'm going to put Tuesday in there as well, that Monday/Tuesday. What can students expect? Is there going to be any kind of acclimation period for students? Are we going to throw them to the sharks and say, good luck, swim, and we'll pick up the pieces later? Give us a little insight to Monday and Tuesday, the 15th and 16th.
So Monday and Tuesday, so when kids come back, so we understand that some of the kids have never been on campus, okay? So one of the things that we are going to do is the first day back, in advisory, we're going to go over all the safety procedures. So that first and foremost, so kids come to class, they're going to go to first hour, we're going to go over all the safety procedures. We're also going to send the safety procedures out. In this last roar, we sent safety procedures to families. So it won't be different from that, but we just want to make sure that we have FaceTime with those in-person kids to remind them your mask has to be up over your nose and over your mouth at all times, unless you're taking a drink. You take a drink, you put your mask back on, and those types of things. So we will really try to focus on those safety pieces. Then the second thing that we're going to do is during what would normally be JAG Success, we're going to have the advisory students meet again. And so those advisory students are going to go through a session on JAG Success. So talking about JAG Success, how do you sign up for JAG Success on campus? What does that look like? How do you find your learning lab? Those types of pieces. And then first hour, okay, and I know I'm working backwards a little bit, but first we're asking all first hour teachers to do a tour with their students, and we're going to develop a tour route for those teachers to go through that with our students. So that's going to be for freshmen. Okay, so that won't be for the sophomores or juniors, but freshman teachers, first hour with freshmen, we're going to take them on a tour, make sure they see the campus and they understand where to go to their learning labs. And then myself and my team will be out showing kids where to go as they hit campus, greeting them, saying good morning, those types of things. So we're excited. We know it can be a daunting task in the beginning, but it's worthwhile.
Can I say this? I am scared to death to see you on the 15th, because I feel like you've been cooped up for far too long. Like there's part of me that feels like you're going to bungee jump from like a roof or something, because you're going to go hog wild on the 15th.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I honestly, I just want to go around and try to see and talk to as many kids as possible. That's honestly how I'm probably going to be spending my day. So I have to look back at my schedule because I just made things in my schedule based on not having kids. And so now that we have kids, I'm going to move and adjust and make some things adjust. So
better clear that calendar, my friend.
yeah, so absolutely. So
we talked a little bit about freshmen. I had a question come in here. Because we've been gone for 8 months, we have some students that are celebrating birthdays, getting older, starting to drive.
yeah.
So obviously our student driving population is probably doubled since last year, and just in the fall. Parking passes, things of that nature. I'm assuming bookstore is open during the day, but are we going to extend maybe some grace that first week to allow students to buy parking passes and things like that?
Yeah, so we put in the chat Nicole Wiley. She's our awesome bookstore manager. You're gonna reach out to her if you need a parking pass. We're not charging for parking passes this year, so you don't have to worry about that cost. So get your parking if you're she'll give you all the information that you'll need. So parking pass, you'll need to get that parking pass. Okay, so and yeah, I mean, we know that there's going to be a number of students. So I do want to kind of veer off the path a little bit and talk about one thing that I keep seeing kind of come up. Number one, remember, if you are getting to us late tonight, the governor came out at about 1:30, 1:45 this afternoon and said all schools have to return back to in-person learning March 15th. So it literally just changed this afternoon. So we're doing, when we were preparing for and I'll tell you this, it was funny because I just want a shout out to our Aurora boosters, and then the work that they've done, and all the parents that donated. Our staff, our faculty and staff are truly appreciative of the breakfast and lunch and all the things that our Aurora boosters have done and all the donations that you guys have given to our Aurora boosters. So I just want to give a shout out to them. But they were here today, and I was talking with them, and it's funny, and I made a comment, and I said, well, hopefully I don't have to do a quick pivot like we had to do last year around this time. And then an hour, 2 hours later, this comes out, and we're like, okay, well, here's the, I probably shouldn't have said that, but in regards to, I think there was 2 topics that I do want to cover that I know people didn't say initially, but were in the chat, is vaccinations and commitment. So vaccinations, obviously that's people's private information, medical information, like any other a medical situation. But a number of our teachers have gotten vaccinations, those that feel comfortable in doing so. And it's not a requirement for teachers to be on campus in order to get a vaccination. So it's not a requirement. It's not mandatory. We cannot do that. However, there are some teachers that have, and there's some teachers that haven't. So, and that's across the district. That's just not Canyon View High School. So we've done some work to make that available for our teachers, and I want to applaud the district for doing that. As far as commitment goes, the commitment form is due March 8th. It's imperative that we get that commitment from you one way or the other. There was a question on, can you change your mind? So you can only change your mind under extenuating circumstances. So if there's something that is not foreseen that's an extenuating circumstance, we'll work with you on a one-on-one basis. But we're asking that your commitments at this point in time, once you do your commitment by March 8th, your commitment holds firm. And that's because of staffing needs, that's supplies, that's class sizes, that's all the logistical things that we need to do to A, ensure that your students are safe on a daily basis, and B, to ensure that our teachers are well equipped to do the very great job that they do. We need to have those solid numbers. So so we're asking to make sure that people do fill out that form when that form comes out, and that form will be coming out tomorrow. So it will be going out to families via Remind tomorrow. If for some reason you don't have a Remind and you don't have something out, please go ahead and check with our go onto our website and go into the parent portal, and you'll be able to see our Remind 101, and you can go ahead and sign up there. I know that there was an anticipated class size. I'll be honest with you, I cannot give you a class size right now. You could have a class. The reality is this: we could have a class with 10 students in it, and we could have a class with 8 students in it, and we could have a class with 20 students in it. It really depends on what you as parents, as families, feel comfortable doing with your student and what you fill out when you fill out that survey.
Okay, so that's a great pivot, conversation right there. So let's change course to a popular topic amongst students, but also parents, which is a day in the life in this fourth quarter, right? So obviously, as we're seeing in the chat, there are things that we can control and things that we can't control because they go even above your head. And so whether it comes from the state or from the district, excuse me, some things that we can control is what happens at Canyon View. So give us some insight. I know some students wrote in some questions. What does a day in the life look like in the fourth quarter in regards to, let's say we do have a good chunk of kids, are they able to do normal work? Are they able to do group work? Are they able to, let's start there and then I have some follow-up questions, but give us some a day in the life in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, so a day in the life of the fourth quarter is you're going to go to class, you're going to meet with your classmates that are at home and in person. You're going to do your non-bell work. It's going to be connected to the content that you discussed for that day, or it's going to be a social emotional learning question. That's kind of how it's going to start. And then we're asking our teachers to make it fun. To give the students, we know that students have been home and looking at a screen. We've been looking at our screens. We do virtual meetings. And so we want our students to be engaged, whether they're at home or in person, but we're asking our teachers in person, let's get back to the science labs. Let's get back to our CTE classes, doing some of the learning by doing that we've always done here at Canyon View High School. So that's going to be our focus for those students and those teachers when they're on campus. So that's what a day in the life looks at on campus. We'll maintain social distancing, but masks have to be worn and those types of pieces. So we're going to continue to follow the safety. I mean, I will tell you this right now, we literally have a crew going around every day, all day, just wiping down door handles and railings and windows and things like that, all touch points, touch services. So I promise you, we're taking this seriously. We're trying to do the best that we can to provide a safe and nurturing environment, but we also want our students to have fun while they're here on campus the best way that we can. It won't be a complete return to normal, but I'm confident that we're going to be able to provide an experience that students will feel valuable when they're here.
So based on that, on your comment right there, what are the expectations of student interaction? So before school, in between classes, during lunch, after school, those are our congregation times throughout the day, right? So
right.
What can students and how can we make parents feel safe about this social interaction with potentially 1,400 kids on campus, along with lunch, because I know that was another thing that came up too.
Right. So, I mean, what we're asking our students, it was funny, I was asked this question by a parent today. What we're asking our students is this: please don't touch each other. I know you're excited to see each other. We're excited to see you, but we're asking, please don't touch each other. That's going to be the biggest thing. I mean, we're not going to be able to stop students from congregating at some level. But what we're asking is if kids are outside and they're talking to each other, absolutely they have to have their mask on. And we're asking them to try to social distance as much as possible. And so we want our kids to be safe, and we want them to be smart about what they're doing, and we want them to be able to stay on campus as long as possible. So I know that our students want to be social, and we want them to be social. We just want them to be social in a safe way. So we're just asking, wear your mask, social distance whenever possible, and don't touch each other.
All right. It was weird because, we get these pockets of students that come after school. And I had an experience like that with the cheerleaders that were warming up for one of our basketball games. And I have some pretty close relationships with some of the cheer squad, and they saw me and they yelled my name and came sprinting towards me. And it was like this invisible wall got built between us. And you could almost hear like that cartoon screech as they came up. And then we were like, air hug, air hug.
Yeah.
So that I don't know that they're going to do that, but I felt appreciated and safe at the same time.
Yeah.
So
I know you got air 5, air hugs,
air fives.
those types of things. Hey, I do want to address something that I see kind of frequently in the chat real quick is transportation information. And what I don't want to do is please don't flood the transportation department. Just like us, they're getting this information right now. I promise you, transportation information will come out in the next few days, in the next week. So by spring break, you will have transportation information out to you, sent home to families. If for some reason you don't get something by the end of next week, then absolutely reach out to them. But I promise you guys, they're working diligently right now to provide that information, get that information to you guys. And that's why, once again, that commitment form is so important. We don't know how many students are going to be on the bus until you guys fill out the commitment form. So after Monday, the entire district is going to be mobilized to get ready for students to return. So Monday, my team and our crew, we're going to be working during spring break to try to make sure we get student lists and those things ready for our teachers as they return. And then secondly, our transportation department is going to be working diligently to make sure that those numbers are correct and bus things like that. So a lot of times, I promise you, everybody's working to get you the information as soon as possible.
Okay. All right. So here's another big topic. Here's another big one. Co-curriculars, right? So Ms. Hudson, our athletic director, has done a phenomenal job, in my opinion, of doing what she can within her power to make sure that students are engaged after school, that they're playing sports, that we're following the guidelines. I know it's frustrating when you have your student out there and you want to cheer them on and you want friends and family to come along to also cheer them on, but our hands are tied, right? We are at the mercy of the AIA in a lot of respects, but can you give us some updates to spring sports? Can you give us some updates as to, we have a lot of outdoor athletic events. Does that change anything? What does that look like? Or are those questions that still need answers based on what the AIA shares with us down the road?
Yeah, so I know Miss Hudson, she'll probably throw some stuff in the chat because I know she's watching and we'll probably tackle this question a little bit deeper than I will. But essentially right now, what we have is the mask mandate is continuing right now for winter sports, but we do believe the spring mask mandate will be changed. So Ms. Hudson will send out additional information in regards to that. But right now, and that's based on competition, not based on practices. So right now, while kids are on campus, they need to maintain wearing their mask.
Awesome. Okay, how about, you mentioned this a little bit at the beginning, and we had a couple of questions come in when it comes to AP exams, testing, things of that nature. Are students going to be able to do those at home, even if they're remote learners? Is that something that we're going to need them to come in just for a day to take those exams, and then they can resume remote learning? Because we're in the testing season, right? So whether it's AP exams or whether it is state testing, what does that look like for our campus in April?
Yeah, so this is a great question, and we're going to have more information out in regards to this. So right now, a couple things. So right now we have two options. So AP is allowing us to both test in person and test remotely. So there are some caveats to doing either one of those choices. So we haven't fully determined exactly what direction or what challenges or things that we're going to need to do in order to be able to facilitate that. And so please keep looking at the ROAR. Make sure you're paying attention to the ROAR. We're going to make sure that we get that information out to you guys in a timely manner. So, so that's exactly what we're going to do. So I do, a couple things that I do want to mention too. There's two things that I wanted to kind of address real quick. The first thing I want to mention is band. Band, Mr. George, our band director, does an excellent job. He's going to be communicating out what it looks like for band as far as, whether or not students will, what kind of activities band will be doing and what those regulations are around band. It just depends on what they do and where they do it. So we'll get that information out to you guys. I know we had some that had some questions in regards to that. There's three things. The second thing I want to do is that all of our athletic protocols, when it comes to masks and things like that, is in line with the AIA. We're following the AIA direction. And then the last thing that I want to do is that I understand that, I apologize. Two more things, Mr. Beal, is your students will remain with their teacher regardless if they're in person or they're remote. Okay, and they will be engaging with their teacher on a daily basis. So they're not basically on their own, but there will be some times that they're going to have to do asynchronous learning. But the last thing that I really want to talk about is that, we have 5 foundations here: innovation, diversity, character, community, and pride. And what I want us to do right now is really come together as a community. I understand that people have different choices to make as a family, and I don't judge anybody or any person over the choice that they have to make. It's a personal choice. We respect you if you want to bring your kids back to school, and we're excited to see them. We respect you if you want to keep your kids at home. So what I like for us to do is that let's pull together as a community. Let's really try to be positive about the next steps that we have to take. And at the end of the day, I think we all want the same thing, which is best for our kids, which, just like anything else, is going to look different at some point in time. So for some of our kids, remote learning is going to be the best option for them. 100% respect that, and we're going to do our best to engage with your kid and keep your kid engaged and give them what they need. And then some of you, it's going to be in person, and we absolutely respect that choice, and we're going to be here for your kids if they're in person with us as well. So I appreciate the passion, and I know we all are in the same situation, right? We're all dealing with a number of things that we have to deal with right now. So I'm excited about the prospects of being able to engage with kids at a different level. But I promise you that here at Canyon View High School, regardless of what your family decision is, we support you, and we really want to be there for you regardless of what your family decision is. So let's pull together as a community. Let's continue to be positive, and let's move forward with fidelity.
And if I might just offer some perspective too, like, in my role, the role that you put me in is to advocate for our teachers. And so, I'm going to ask that you extend that grace and that patience to our teachers as well. It's been a long road for a lot of our teachers. It's been a trial in a lot of ways, and it's been trial by fire in most ways. They've been learning new techniques, new technology, new approaches. Some have embraced it and run with it, and others have really had to acclimate to the challenge that was laid out before them. And so, I would hope that anybody who's out there in the working force, and you're asked to do something you're not used to doing, and as Mr. Nowlin says, do it with fidelity. There's a learning curve, and I'll be honest, coming back, I've had conversations with teachers, and one of the things that some of the teachers tell me are, I've been teaching for a long time, but I've never had an 8-month break from students, and if you add the summer, it's really closer to 11 months or 10 months. And so, there is going to be some relational, footwork that has to happen between teacher and student. And so anyway, just on that message of community, as we go back, and it might look a little different, but understand that your teachers, like Mr. Nowlin said, are passionate about your students. They're passionate about getting them ready for what lies after graduation. And we are going to do our absolute best for the remainder of the 9 weeks we have left, to do the very best we can with the time that we have left, and then set ourselves up for August to hopefully have things a little bit back to normal. But I know teachers are chomping at the bit to get back to what they're trained and passionate about. So, Mr. Nowlin, let's we had some technical difficulties. I know we wanted to extend some time for some rapid fire questions in the chat. I know and respectfully, moms and dads and students, we're going to save this portion of our time to new questions. So rather than hash out, this will be posted. You'll be able to reference the entire talk that Mr. Nowlin and I have had. So if you came in late, no worries, no problem. We're not holding your feet to the fire, but we're going to try to really answer questions that have not been asked yet and make sure that we get as many answers to your questions as possible. So go ahead and throw them out in the chat. I will facilitate some of them. I'm sure Mr. Nowlin will also be checking the feed.
Yeah, so
what do you
I
have?
have two that I wrote down here, Mr.
Okay,
Beal.
great. That'll get us started, and I'll write more as you're talking.
Yep. So one was state testing. I know that people asked about state testing. So AZM2 state testing will occur this year, and so that's something that we don't control. However, schools have been held harmless without getting a letter grade, and we don't get a letter grade anyway. But because we don't have graduates yet. We don't have a graduating class, but next year will be a senior class, and it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun to see. But as things matriculate about state testing and we get closer, we will have information in the roar about state testing. Okay, so another thing that I saw is tutoring, right? JAG Success. So JAG Success will continue at the end of the day. We are going to provide opportunities for JAG Success at the end of the day. In-person students will attend JAG Success in person, and then we are going to have an element of JAG Success or RTI for our remote students. And so we're going to send details out in regards to that on Friday. Okay. So there will be opportunities during the school day for remote students and for in-person students to receive that response to intervention, which is basically your tutoring, your reteaching, those types of things through our Jaguar Success model. And so after school tutoring, if need be, we can still provide after school tutoring. I'll have to work with some teachers to see who's going to be available for that. But usually we're able to take care of that through JAG Success. And so we haven't had the need to do that, but if we do, then we'll work something out definitely for that.
Under the current model too, Mr. Nowlin, what will be nice is with not having students on campus on Wednesday, there is a kind of an element of reteach / tutoring, even in the construct of Wednesdays. So that's kind of a little bit of a bonus in that regard too.
Yeah, the goal is not to really use Wednesdays as new material. It's really to engage with students to be able to say, how did, if it's a first hour kid, how did Monday go in that lesson? How are you doing with that? So that's really an opportunity for people or for students and teachers to engage, the remote students and teachers to engage in a live format via their Google Meets. So, I mean, that's definitely an important part.
Okay. Ms. Hawk, real quick, correct me if I'm wrong, when those deadline sheets do come out, we're looking at March 8th, correct?
March 8th.
March 8th, which is Monday?
Monday.
There you go.
Yep.
Thank you, Ms. Louder. March 8th is the deadline. Any other questions as we kind of start to wrap up here?
I know that a parent had a question about finals. We're continuing to refine what finals will look like. Obviously, that's also something that will be dependent on how many students we have in person. And let's be honest, guys, there's been curveballs all throughout this. There's always been curveballs that have been thrown to us during this period in time. So obviously, we want to make sure that we think through every process when it comes to finals. We are looking at a culminating project for finals, but how that would be delivered versus remote versus in-person students, we're continuing to refine that. And especially we're going to do some observations about how students are doing when we transition into this on March 8th when we, I'm sorry, March 15th when we return to in-person learning. So but we'll have information well ahead of advance, and we'll communicate that to your students as well.
And we'll be sending out that form within the next 2 days.
Right.
Okay. Let me do this as we kind of wrap up. I just want to give a shout out to Miss Levers, Miss Morrissey. I don't know if we had any other teachers on here, but appreciate
Miss
them.
Shevlin, I saw Miss Shevlin in there.
Perfect. And this is the commitment we're talking about. Like, here we are on a Wednesday night at 7:30, and our teachers are diving in here, helping to answer your questions, because they care as much as anybody on the planet about your kid. And so thank you guys for being out here. Of course, Miss Reed, Miss Hudson, Miss Ari Turner. I think our lead counselor, I saw Miss Colleen was popping in here. Miss Cruz.
I think Mrs. Smith is behind the counseling. Miss Cruz is in here. So I do want to say so there was 2 things that popped up as you were saying your thank yous. So number 1 was, yes, we're still continuing to do daily health screeners. That's for our staff. All of our staff have to do that on a daily basis, and that will happen for students as well. And the second thing is we're continuing to wear masks. We always adhere to what the state says and what the district says. So right now, as a school, mask is the mandate. We'll continue to wear masks until I'm told something different from my leadership. So we'll let you know if anything changes there, but I don't anticipate any change there.
And can I say this too? And my mouth usually gets me in trouble. You know this.
Absolutely.
But moms and dads, can you help us with that? Honest to goodness, look, this is not something that we are coming down with the thunder and brimstone. But this is what we need to do. This is what we're being asked to do. What we're being asked to enforce. Miss Ari Turner does an absolute, impossibly incredible job with making sure our campus has been in a place where we can even come back. And so the best and most authentic way that we can do this and keep students on campus, keep students healthy, and move forward is with your help in telling your student, hey, when you're on campus, just wear the mask. This is not a stance that we're taking. This is not any kind of statement or anything like that. It's what's being asked of us, and we're just trying to move forward where we can end the school year as effectively as possible. So any help that mom and dad you can give with us, with those students, we really appreciate it.
All right. Okay, so I see a comment in here about not wearing a mask. I'm just going to be honest with you. If your student comes to campus with a mask, we're going to give them a mask, and they have to wear a mask if they're going to be on campus. If you're choosing not to wear a mask, then we're going to ask you to choose to do remote learning. This is something that comes way above my head. And it's just like Mr. Beal just said, it's something that we are required to do. Every campus in our district is required to do this. As far as I know, every campus that I can think of fellow educators that I have are required to do it as well. So, we're going to ask you, please make sure that your student is wearing their mask. If you choose not to do so, that is your choice. However, you will need to choose remote learning as your option. So, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and it's 7:32, and I don't see any additional questions at this time. So I want to say I thank you as a school community. I know that this is tough. This is tough for us. This is tough for you. And most of all, it's tough on the students, because at the end of the day, we as adults, we can go back and forth. But the reality is, we're about kids, and it's about and we need to make sure that we do what we can do to work together as a school community to do what's best for kids. And so that it never gets lost on me. And I'm gonna be the first person to tell you that I make mistakes, and I'm not perfect, and neither is our staff. So our teachers have absolutely anything that's happened this year that hasn't gone as smooth as we wanted to. It's not for a lack of effort. from anybody on our staff, but it's one of those things that, I know that as an educator, we take this home with us, and we're thinking about it when we go home and on the weekends and things like that, because we care. So we care about your kids. We're going to continue to work to get better. And we really appreciate your time tonight and being patient with us and listening to us. And I know that we weren't able to answer 100% of your questions, but I hope that you guys felt that this was valuable. And just as a reminder, we're going to be posting this on our YouTube page. And so CVTV, we'll post it on CVTV, the recording. And so any families that that are not on Facebook and say, well, I'm not on Facebook, so I wasn't able to watch it, they'll be able to see this on our YouTube page. And so we'll make sure that that gets posted up this week.
Yeah, so as we wrap up, really quick, for those of you that are still on, really want to plug a very awesome event. We're going to be hosting our Canyon View High School 3rd Annual College and Career Fair on Thursday, March 18th from 6 to 7:30. We're going to be posting details with links. You can check your counseling social media, your counseling JAGS 22, JAGS 23, JAGS 24 sites. But it's a great night. It's awesome. It's the 3rd year we're doing this. It's a college and career fair, again, on Thursday, March 18th. From 6 to 7:30, and really encourage your students to really start thinking about their future, because it comes in the blink of an eye, and we want to make sure that your students are prepared and see the options that are out there for them. So really want to throw that out there really quick.
I do want to give one last plug to two outstanding ladies who have really helped us and have been there and helped get us monitors, help get us food, and really have just been, what do you need, kind of leading the roar. And that's Stacy Jacobs and Sam Hamlin. I just want to say thank you to you, both of you, for being here today twice. They were here twice today delivering food to us.
Feeding us.
And they've just been right there to say, so please join the roar or help the roar out, do whatever you can, because those ladies have been absolutely awesome in helping us. And I know that there's a lot of you right now that I didn't name that have been awesome in helping us, and I want to thank you as well. So with that, we're going to close out. We're going to get out of here, let you guys enjoy the rest of your evening, and have a great spring break. Look out for our communication coming on Friday, and go Jags.
Go Jags. Thanks, everyone. We appreciate it. Have a great night.